Testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, testing, testing, 1, 2. Just say testing.
Testing 1, 2.
A little louder.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay, that's good.
Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
Hello, everyone. My name is Don, the movie reviewer, and today I'm being accompanied by my girlfriend, Allie, and I've been trying to get her on here for a very long time, and I finally got her. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to be talking about Batman versus Superman.
Why did you say that name?
Batman vs. Superman is a sequel to the Man of Steel movie, which is a Superman solo outing. Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, picks up immediately after the ending sequences in Man of Steel with the destruction of Metropolis. But before we get into that, we are introduced to Bruce Wayne again as a child, and we witness the death of his parents again. And this is, I think, my 5th or 6th time watching this movie. And I remember when this movie was first released, there was a lot of criticism from people who were saying, oh, we don't want to see Bruce Wayne's parents die again. The opening sequence, Batboy Bruce Wayne sees his parents killed at gunpoint. Again. Why must we always have to be spoon-fed the origin of this character in every damn movie? The psychotic flashbacks from his past will likely be thrown in later on in the movie and can allude to the Dark Knight's brooding demeanor just fine. Thank you.
What does that mean?
How do you feel about that?
Oh, no, I don't agree. I really love that part at the beginning. It's very emotional. And I think it brings out the depth of his character. I think it shows his pain of what he went through as a kid. And I really enjoy the scene where the bats lifted him up as a kid. He'd been in the gutter and it kind of lifted him up to the light. I hadn't seen that before, and I thought that was very profound to me. I think it's also good to show that one more time, or every time even, because there's a lot of viewers that have never seen the movie or the series or don't even know Batman. So I think for them, they need to see that.
I agree. Like, live action version, we've seen multiple people play this character. We've seen Adam West, Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, and now Ben Affleck, and then later down the line, somebody else who will be playing this character. And yes, even though we do see his parents die again at the beginning, it does play in to what happens later in the movie.
Martha. Why did you say that name?
And so it all ties together, while yes, at the same time, this could be someone's first viewing of a Batman movie, and so it's good to have that there so they know the exact context as to why Batman is the way he is. So then after we get the origin story of Bruce Wayne again, we are introduced to
A beautiful lie.
I like this scene, but at the same time I don't like this scene. Because I like it because it sets up how Bruce Wayne feels towards Superman. Like, we have a very intense sequence of Bruce Wayne in his car, and he's driving through this destruction, and the music is good, and Ben Affleck's acting is good, and the visuals are great. Seeing Ben Affleck, Bruce Wayne, be a hero, save this kid, save Wally, and trying to save Jack.
I mean, God, Creator of heaven and earth, have mercy on my soul.
And then he sees Superman falling from the sky fighting Zod, and so therefore that kicks things off into Batman versus Superman, and then Bruce Wayne blaming Superman for the destruction in Metropolis and hurting and killing people who are close to him.
Jesus, Alfred, count the dead. Thousands of people. What's next? Millions? He has the power to wipe out the entire human race, and if we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
I don't like the scene because what was Bruce Wayne going to do this whole time? Like, he shows up on his helicopter, then he gets in his Jeep, and I remember when this movie was first being promoted, they had this car commercial of the scene of him in the Jeep, and he's driving around, and as I'm watching it in the movie, it seems like, oh, this is just a commercial to sell this car. Why is he even driving through this? He's calling Jack saying, get out of the building, when clearly the ship and the destruction is outside of his window. He can make the logical decision himself and get everybody out of there. He doesn't need Bruce Wayne to call him. So my problem with it, as good as it is, and how it sets up everything, it doesn't make any sense for Bruce Wayne to be there. Clearly, him showing up on a helicopter illustrates that he went there with intentions to save people, which him being Bruce Wayne, he can't do anything. But since he knew this was going down, he could have taken that helicopter and went to the Batcave, got in the bat suit, got in the Batwing, and just flew down there and saved everybody. How'd you feel about that scene?
I guess I felt a little bit the same way you did. I thought Batman would immediately be prepared, or he would be right there, showing up on time. He'd already be at the Batcave, and he'd already know what's going on, and he's on his way, and he's gonna save the day. I guess, like he always does. I thought he would. It seemed like they were dragging that out, and I'm not sure if it was to bring out a point of his weakness, possibly. I'm not sure why they did that, but I thought maybe it was to show a weaker side of Batman. It's new, we haven't seen that before, so it was kind of strange.
It seems that this Batman basically is not as seasoned as what we've come to expect from past Batmans. He's not, like, he's a brave man, he's running into the rubble and he's trying to save people, but he's not
got some flaws. He's just not perfect. He's gonna not always be there right on time, and there's gonna be times where he's going through something where he isn't right there and it's not done yet. But maybe the weaker side, maybe his imperfections will show a little bit more, or his weaknesses from his troubled past.
Yeah, I feel that too. Like, even though this Batman is a more grittier, seasoned Batman, he's been through some shit, and it shows with the fact that Ben Affleck, his Batman is older, and he just immediately jumps in there. He's just like, I'm gonna rescue people, even though I feel like he could have did it in a better way. But at the same time, it shows that he's flawed. He's not perfect. He's mostly reacting through impulse, which is something we'll get into later. So then after we see this I would say it's a good introduction scene. It sets up what the title of the movie is, Batman versus Superman. So now we know off of this sequence alone why Bruce doesn't like Superman. So then we kick into the plot of this movie, where we have Kryptonite being introduced for the first time. Then we have Lois Lane in Africa with Jimmy Olsen, and she's talking to this terrorist, and then there's these other terrorists who discover Jimmy Olsen's working with the CIA, and then they kill him, and then these terrorists kill the other terrorist. Then Superman kills the head terrorist, and then the terrorists, who obviously are working for Lex, but they don't reveal that until later on in the movie, these terrorists not only shoot these other terrorists, but they set their bodies on fire to set up Superman. They're setting this whole plan in motion to frame Superman for the deaths of these people. How did you feel about that in the movie?
It seems so complicated. I'm not sure why to me, but it seemed like a bunch of stuff they didn't need to add to the movie to me. I thought there was already a motive for him to be against Superman, and I thought all they would do is set up the reason for Superman to want to fight Batman. I thought they had a reason already for Batman to want to fight Superman, and all they needed to do was give Superman a reason. And it was getting really complicated to me. I don't know why they had to have all this terrorist stuff in there, but it was going on for a long time, and I just felt like, wow, what is all this stuff here? It was too much for me, but I was trying to give it a chance, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna wait through this and see what they're up to, why they're doing this. But it was too much. I really felt it was complicated.
Yeah, I feel like at the beginning it's a puzzle builder. It's a puzzle movie where at first you get one piece of the puzzle, then you get another piece of the puzzle, and you're like, how do these two pieces connect? Then you get another piece, and it goes on and on. And then I would say by the end it's a complete piece. It's a complete puzzle. They all go together. So the thing that sets Lois Lane off on her journey is the fact that when the terrorists were in the firefight, a bullet got lodged in her journal, and she's trying to figure out who wants to set up Superman. She has this bullet. She's trying to figure out who manufactured it. And I feel her plot in the movie is unnecessary because as an audience member, I already know where it's going. I already know it's Lex Luthor, but her character within the movie doesn't really know. But it seems to me that when she actually finally figures out who manufactured the bullet, she goes to the colonel or whoever that guy is, and he tells her, oh, it's by LexCorp. Then she's like, oh, go on the record and tell everybody about it. He's like, no, not a chance. So then, by that being said, it feels like her entire narrative of her wanting to figure out who manufactured this bullet is pointless. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help change the public's perception of Superman. I mean, it just tells the colonel that, oh, it's not Superman. But then he's not going to tell the public about that. So everything still remains the same by the end of her investigation. And with Superman being blamed for the deaths of those terrorists, the only thing they have to go off is the testimony of this one African lady who is testifying against Superman, saying, yeah, he did it, he killed them, and that's it. Off this one person,
One witness until they took her out.
Yeah, until they took her out later.
Yeah.
But they go off this one witness, which to me sounds illogical. Like, you think they would conduct a thorough investigation, they just wouldn't go off the testimony of this one witness. It doesn't really work. And then when we learn that it was the plan of Lex, like Lex's plan in here seems really illogical. Because at first it's like, okay, I'm going to hire these terrorists to kill these other terrorists, and they're going to set these terrorists on fire to frame Superman. And they're going to think, oh, Superman used his heat vision to burn him or something. And then we're going to hire this African lady to testify against him. Then there's this guy named Wally in here who I felt bad for him, and his story made sense where he's like, oh yeah, I'm crippled and my wife left me. I can't piss standing up anymore. And Superman's a false god. Like, I thought his narrative was worked out thoroughly, and but then, like, when it seems to me within Lex's plan, Wally wasn't a part of it at first until the news report came of what he did when he spray painted false god on the Superman's monument. Then all of a sudden, Lex bails Wally out of jail.
Who the hell are you?
Just a man.
Yeah? What the fuck do you want?
To help you stand for something.
Capitol Police are confirming to CNN that the suspected bomber is Wallace Vernon Keefe. Now, these sources
Look,
also say
it's
that
me again, Kenny.
got the explosive device into the hearing, but it seems that inside his wheelchair.
That whole entire plot with Wally doesn't really go anywhere, and it's kind of like wasted at the end when it's set up perfectly. But by the end, the ending result of it, it's just kind of like, okay, he's dead now. It's like, And it's sad too, because it's like that guy already went through so much suffering, now they just kill him. But then when I think about that within the greater context of Luthor's plan, like I said, it just feels illogical because there's so many things in it that can go wrong, where it's like also they got this other plot in here where Bruce is not revealing the fact that, oh, I want to get kryptonite so I can kill Superman. He's spitting this whole thing about, oh, there's this white Portuguese and it's a dirty bomb and I want to stop it. When he finally figures out what it is, he confesses to Alfred and says, oh, it's kryptonite and I'm gonna use it to kill Superman. It's like, why was he keeping this from Alfred the whole time?
This is every call made from the Russians' phone. 2 mentions of business with the white Portuguese, and it's continually transmitting blacked out data to the personal residence of Alexander Luthor.
Do you think Lex Luthor is the white Portuguese? The white Portuguese isn't carrying a dirty bomb. What is it carrying?
It's a weapon. It's a rock. A mineral capable of weakening Kryptonian cells. The first sample big enough to mean something turned up in the Indian Ocean 3 months ago. It is now aboard the white Portuguese being delivered to Lex Luthor, who I am going to steal it from.
Yeah, I feel like that was unnecessary. They didn't need Bruce to do that. Like, there's so much going on in this movie that I feel that the narrative is so torturous. They could have just focused on what the title of this movie is, Batman versus Superman, and focused on their conflicting ideologies. Like, they kind of do that in here where, you know, Lex is pulling the strings, where he's sending both of them letters and notes, where he's sending Clark Kent letters of like, yeah, here's Batman's the judge, jury, and executioner. Is this really justice? You know, and that pisses Clark Kent off because he's like, yeah, you know, that's not justice. You know, you shouldn't be doing that. And then Bruce is mad at Superman because he feels like, oh, Superman, he's a dod, and I saw what he did in Metropolis, and there's a 1% chance he's our enemy, and we have to take it as absolute certainty, so I got to stop him, you know. And all that stuff is all fine and dandy, but once they show all that stuff, they keep going back to Lois and the Bullet, and then they keep going like back to these other plots that don't really, like, they make sense, but they just seem so like illogical.
Ripe fruit, his hate. 2 years growing, but it did not take much to push him over, actually. Little red notes, big bang, you let your family die!
Just kind of going in circles in this movie, and he seemed like irrational and radical and extreme on things, where if he was very intelligent and bright, maybe he had gone too far too far with himself, and he was off the deep end now or something. I'm not sure what their point was.
Yeah, it seemed to me like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, I can understand them trying to take the character in a different direction. Like, that's what they're doing with Batman and Superman here. They're taking him in a different direction. And they're also doing it with Lex. They're not giving people the Lex Luthor that everyone knows and loves. I feel like it works with Batman and Superman, taking them in a different direction. But with Lex, it doesn't work. It feels like Jesse Eisenberg's performance, or just the way they want to play out Lex Luthor in here, it feels over the top to me.
Yeah, he was so extreme, and even what he was saying he wasn't complete on all of his thoughts. He was just kind of irrational and radical and extreme, and he was just going on about everything, and he would kind of circle around her when he was talking. Remember some of the scenes, he just played this insane person.
Yeah, and I can understand him, you know, as far as the character goes, how the character reacts to certain situations. You know, everybody reacts to things differently. But yeah, the way Jesse Eisenberg played it just felt too over the top. Like, it didn't seem realistic to me. It seemed like it was too, like, heavy-handed. Like, I don't know exactly what Lex Luthor's problem is with Superman, like in the comics and in past movies, but in this movie, the explanation, I feel, to me, it feels the only reason Lex Luthor hates Superman is because that he exists.
No man in the sky intervened when I was a boy to deliver me from Daddy's fists and abominations. I figured out way back. If God is all-powerful, he cannot be all good. And if he is all good, then he cannot be all-powerful. And neither can you be. There we go. There we go. And now God bends to my will.
They were definitely throwing symbolism in there with the Bible and using some verses from the Bible and kind of throwing a twist in there to show his evil, but I didn't fully understand it all. I'd have to watch it again and really focus on that, but I did see some symbolism that was kind of interesting on it.
Yeah, I do remember you saying earlier that as you were watching the movie, he was quoting scripture verses, but he was turning them upside down.
Yeah, kind of like the devil did in the Bible. He would use scripture, but he'd twist it a little bit and use it for evil instead of, it talks in the Bible about how Satan disguises himself as light, but he's dark, and they were kind of doing that in here. It was kind of supposed to be deceptive, I think, with his evil, because he said he hated.
I don't hate the sinner. I hate the sin.
10 seconds to end.
And yours, my friend, is existing.
I don't hate the sinner, but I hate the sin.
Yeah, I don't hate
but
the
he was like the evil guy, so it was kind of confusing to me. I think they were just trying to show that he was crazy, and then he was kind of off the wall, and he's using scripture in a weird way. And they were trying to portray him as being such a genius that he kind of lost his mind, I think. But I don't know.
Dealing with all of this torturous stuff within the narrative with Lois and Lex and his illogical scheme, when we get to the nitty-gritty of Batman fighting Superman, I feel, Lex has his reasoning. Superman is there to kill Batman because Luthor has his mom. Batman is there to kill Superman because he feels like, this guy's a god, he can destroy the planet any time, and also Lex has been sending him things in the mail like, you let your family die and you can't let Superman live.
But it did not take much to push him over, actually. Little red notes. Big bang, you let your family die!
And so to me, it seems Lex set this plan in motion to where, he gets the kryptonite, he wants Batman to steal it from him, he kidnaps Superman's mother and says, go fight Batman.
Mercy!
I don't know! I would not let them tell me. Now, if you kill me, Martha dies. And if you fly away, Martha also dies. But if you kill the bat, Martha lives.
And I'm not going to tell you that he has kryptonite. So it seems like Lex Luthor wanted Batman to kill Superman. But then if Superman dies and Batman kills him, then what was Lex's plan after that? Like, is everything all jolly and good? Like, what?
Right.
And why would we want to weaponize this material?
As a deterrent? A silver bullet to keep in reserve to use against the Kryptonians, so the day does not come, madame, when your children are waving daisies at a reviewing stand.
I don't know. I don't know if I fully understood it like you. I kind of thought maybe Lex was just setting it up so that they would kill each other, or in hopes that Superman would die, but maybe Batman would die too. I wasn't sure what was going to go on there, but I was thinking it was just to set them both up. I wasn't sure how he felt about Batman. They didn't elaborate on that.
So then when Superman and Batman start fighting each other, off the bat, Superman is trying to reason with Batman. Superman's like,
Bruce, please. I was wrong. You have to listen to me. Lex wants us.
Bruce, you have to listen to me, Lex. And then all of a sudden, these things are going off, and then and Superman gets pissed at Batman, and they get into a shoving match, and it's a very emotional fight. But at the same time, I feel like it's a bit underwhelming because towards the end of the fight, Superman reveals that, oh, my mother's name is your mother's name. Both of our mothers are named Martha. And that's a lot of criticism from people because they feel it's a bit cheesy and it comes out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden you hate each other and then he just says your mother's name and now you're best friends.
I hated all of the scenes where they were fighting. It was just hard to take seeing either one of them get hurt, especially Batman to me, but I didn't want to see Superman get hurt either. And it's like, you two are supposed to be on the same team. What are you doing? You just get frustrated. But there was a lot of emotion then too. I was just feeling the hurt of these guys getting hurt. It's like, no, don't hurt him. He's a good guy. No. But then they're dealing with such emotion, both of them, extreme heights of pain in both of their lives. So it's like they're acting out. I think finally for Batman, he's kind of acting out some of his pain in his past.
The world only makes sense if you force it to.
He's bringing it out and locked in this mode where now he's an extreme Batman for a moment and he can't even think straight because he's almost to this point where he's willing to kill, whereas he wasn't so much in the past. Now there's like this new view or this new way of seeing Batman. It's this new way he's acting that's kind of different for everybody. But I feel they had to do something to introduce that. They had to bring it out, and it maybe felt cheesy to some people, but it also led into what I felt was the best part of the movie when Batman says to him, "Your mother will not die tonight." He's just so extremely set on that, and all of a sudden you see the brotherhood between the two of them and how they're connected, and they do have a bond, and it's like, yeah, they are fighting for the same thing. And it's like, what were we thinking? Batman kind of has this second take on everything, or he comes out of it, he has an enlightenment, like you said. I think he's all of a sudden he's enlightened and he's got this new thought, and he's like, wait, oh no, we're not gonna let her die. You're not going to lose your mother like I lost mine. And he's there for him all of a sudden. And he's like, I'm going to fight for her. I'm going to go get her. I'm going to take care of this, and he just means business again. And it's like, there is our Batman. He's there, Here he comes.
You're letting him kill Martha. What does that mean? Find him. Save Martha!
That does frustrate me during the fight, because Superman, instead of like saying to Batman, oh, if I wanted it, you'd be dead already, just be like, hey man, Lex has my mother, her name's Martha, stop fighting me, man, help me, and I can understand it in a way of like, okay, let's say, you're in the middle of a fight and you're trying to reason with someone, but they're not listening and they keep trying to hit you, and you get mad at them and frustrated, and you get your emotions get the better of you. But Superman being so powerful, like there's a moment in the fight that frustrates me when after Superman tries to explain everything, but then he gets distracted by these gadgets these traps that Batman set up. Then Superman destroys the traps. And then Superman approaches Batman, and he's like, you don't understand. And then they come face to face.
Yeah.
And then instead of Superman saying, Lex has my mother and she's kidnapped and Lex wants me to kill you to get her back, he shoves him. So I can understand, emotions getting in the way, but at the same time, you would think he'd say something, instead of continuing to try to fight the guy. So yeah, I feel bad about it, but then I feel underwhelmed by it, because I'm like, it kind of doesn't make any sense, because you think he wouldn't try to fight him, So building up to this point, it's like, this is the point of the movie, this is what I came to see, but then I'm not really satisfied by it. But then I think they kind of did that intentionally.
I think they were kind of revealing weaknesses in both their parts, or showing the flaws. They're flawed, they're flawed guys.
So then when they reach that pinnacle moment, that final moment where Batman is about to strike Superman down out of rage and anger and being manipulated, then all of a sudden Superman looks up and he says, you're letting them kill Martha. I can understand why people may think it's cheesy, because all of a sudden, at the end of this fight, he says that, in that very moment. And in real life, if that was me, I don't call my mother by her name. I would say, you're letting him kill my mother. But then I don't think it would have been as powerful if he had said that. So because Bruce Wayne at that point doesn't know what Superman's mother's name is. So within the context of the narrative, it makes sense that he would say that. But in real life, I don't think he would have said Martha. I don't say my mother's name. I call her my mother. What do you think about that?
That was a little bit confusing to me, but it it wasn't something that I'd focus on because right away his response was so amazing to me how it was like it woke him up. And if he wouldn't have said that, it wouldn't have woke him up. So it's like I understand why they threw that in there. It seemed maybe a little weird that he said Martha, but not really. It didn't bother me. I think I appreciated how they did it because they did have the same names. And if he just said Martha like that, if he wouldn't have said her name, it wouldn't have awoken Batman, and maybe it was like a meant to be thing too, and maybe the brotherhood came out in him, and maybe even I thought for a minute that maybe even Superman knew that his mother's name was Martha, but then I thought, no, I don't think so. I don't remember hearing that, but do you think?
I don't think Superman knew what Bruce Wayne's mother's name was. I don't think that.
Maybe it was like one of those things where it's just an amazing thing that happens. It just came out. It was a godsend. I don't know, but it awoke Batman. So maybe it was meant to be that he said that. Maybe he didn't even know why he said that. You know what I mean? Sometimes things happen for other reasons. So I just accepted it and went, wow, yeah, okay. And a lot of people are disappointed, but I wasn't. I thought, you know what? It's okay. That's how they brought it out.
I would say Christopher Nolan's action scenes don't hold a candle to what they did with Batman in that warehouse scene.
Weren't they awesome? They looked so much like like just the real Batman. That's how I have always envisioned him fighting. He's just like business, and he's taking care of it.
Yeah.
It's really good scene. Really good.
And I feel like it works so well within the narrative because as I was watching the movie, I would say before that sequence, we don't really see Batman doing any of that. You know, he's just walking around brooding the whole time. And then when he finally his spirit is awakened.
That's it. He's awakened, and then he's back to it again. It's like, this is what I'm here for.
Yeah, and he's back to it again. This is what I'm here for. He goes in there, he kicks all kinds of ass. He's still killing people, but he's more seasoned now. Like you said before, you know, he's not taking any nonsense. It's like he's just gonna get straight to it. You know, he's just
finish business. He doesn't want it to come back and be a ghost and haunt him again. He's like, I'm done with this guy. You know, he takes him out now. I kind of like it. I kind of like the new view of him, but
yeah, I liked it too, and it made sense. And dealing with all that, it brings us back to the Batman we know and love. So then, after all of that, we lead into Lex Luthor and another grand scheme of his plan, where if Batman doesn't kill Superman, now he's going to create this Doomsday, which is another criticism in the movie where people are saying, well, Doomsday versus Superman, the death of Superman is a very iconic storyline, and it feels like it was just shoehorned into this movie. I can understand that because it's an iconic storyline. People say that storyline should have been in its own movie. I can understand that. I can understand the criticism, but at the same time, especially for someone who doesn't know anything about that, like me, I don't really know anything about that. I mean, I read the Death of Superman comic and it was really good, but within the context of this movie and knowing how hell-bent on Lex is wanting to kill Superman, him building Doomsday or creating Doomsday through the ship that crash land there, and then him putting his blood into the creature made sense because of his hatred. And then so he's like, yeah, you know, when he says that line,
if man won't kill God,
2, 1.
the devil will do it.
And so he creates this creature named Doomsday to fight Superman. And it makes sense within the narrative of the story. Even though, like I said, I feel Luthor's grand scheme is a bit illogical. Like, it seems like there's so much that he has to do and nothing can go wrong. Otherwise, this will fall apart and that will fall apart. Where he's got, you know, the terrorists and they have to burn these bodies, and then he's got to get this witness to testify against Superman. Then he has to hire these guys to shank these people in prison who get branded by Batman to make Batman look bad. or so Superman can see this and be like, hey, Batman is judge, jury, and executioner, and then he's got to get Wally involved to blow up the Senate hearing, and then he's got to somehow, like, he knows that he wants to bring the kryptonite over and he wants Batman to take it, like, then he's got to get Lois involved to push her off the building, to make Superman show up, and they don't really explain how, like, it just seems so illogical when I think about it. But him creating Doomsday makes sense. It's like a plan B. It's like man won't kill God, then the devil will do it. This creature that I created from me tries to kill Superman, and they have the balls to kill Superman in this movie. I will give them that.
I totally agree. I think it was a really good ending, and it was hard to take, seeing Superman being taken out, and it's like, is he really gone for good? You feel that. Are you serious? Is he really going to be gone? But then it seems so much more realistic to me as the story playing out. It wasn't just shut off without a closure. This gives you this feeling like, oh my God, is he really gone? Is he really gone? And you're like, did they really do that? And it just seems, it really sets up for the next movie, I guess. I don't know how to say it, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought, wow, they really did. They really took out Superman. He's a major icon. I can't believe they took him out, but they did. And it was like, I think they needed something like that to make this movie so good, because the beginning of it was kind of, the very beginning was good, but I would say the middle was kind of a lot of heaviness and a lot of too much. It could have been more simple. So then the ending, I felt the ending was really good. I enjoyed it.
And I know what another criticism from people about this movie is the inclusion of Wonder Woman, and trying to set up the Justice League movie by showing the images of other Justice League members like Aquaman and Flash and all that. And I know you and I both agree that Wonder Woman in here was badass, even though, like, she didn't need to be in this movie. Like, they could have taken her character out and it wouldn't have changed anything. But setting her up, like, Bruce wants to get the information from Lex, she steals it from him. She wants to find something, she can't find it, she gives it back to Bruce. Bruce cracks the code, finds out what's going on, then has her take a look at it, and then that sets her off by the end of the movie, where she shows up to save Batman, and we get a good kick-ass moment with Wonder Woman. How'd you feel about Wonder Woman's inclusion in this movie?
I felt it was great. I didn't have a problem with it, and I really liked her, and I like how they had kind of a playful way they put her in. She's fearless, but they also had this cute little way they kind of teased about her. It's kind of like Superman and Batman, where like, I thought she was with you. No, I thought she was with you. They kind of had this little way of going, wow, she's kind of, you could see that they were surprised at how fearless she was. She's standing in front of them going, come on, and she's going to take on Doomsday. And she doesn't care. She's ready. And they're like, wow, okay, let's have her. We'll take her. She's on our team. She's going to do good, and it was kind of, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but
I thought it was good too. I thought the inclusion of Wonder Woman here was perfect to set up her own solo movie, which I think came right after this, and to set up Justice League, and also with them setting up the other Justice League members, the inclusion of them, it didn't affect the story in any way. It was just like, oh, here are the other members, here's what we can get ready for. How do you feel about them just kind of like, mentioning the other members of the Justice League in this movie?
I'm always excited when I see a new character brought out. I don't know why, but it's exciting to me, because then you have an inkling about what's coming, and you kind of go, you know what? Oh, okay, yeah, let's see that. Let's go that way.
Oh yeah, Lex Luthor took the time to give each of them a logo, and so we know that, oh, Aquaman has his logo and all this, and I'm like, well, it's a file, and I guess he has to organize his files in a way to where it's like, oh, he knows which file is what. So that, him putting logos on those things, I don't really care about that. It's whatever. It doesn't affect the story in any way. It may be a little minor silly thing, but it doesn't do anything to the story. Superman is dead, and then Bruce Wayne gives this speech, which you said that is you heard this speech that Bruce.
I think if I remember right, it's the same speech that they gave at after 9/11. It had they referenced "We can rebuild." I think that was what they stated in this, and I was like, oh, "That's so familiar." I think it was from 9/11, and it is scripture. I think it was in the book of Jeremiah, and it was after something had been torn down or something, and then they were going to rebuild. It was like, "We can do this," and it's referencing. I don't know. I have to look at it again, but I do know it's scripture, and I think it comes from Jeremiah.
We fight, we kill, we betray one another. But we can rebuild. We can do better. We will. We have to.
I will say that it feels like this movie does two things where it mirrors real world events, especially at the beginning and throughout. At the beginning, you can definitely see it's kind of like referencing 9/11, like the ground zero moment where like there's all this massive
Chaos.
yeah, there's chaos, there's
Chaos.
yeah. And then I didn't know that the speech that Bruce gave at the end was from 9/11, so then that perfectly ties into, you know, what they did at the beginning, trying to make it feel like, you know, they're in ground zero and referencing 9/11 and all of that.
Well, I think it works great. I think there's a lot of emotion that comes with the 9/11 and just the thoughts of 9/11, bringing it back up. It's always going to be absolute chaos and grief, and it was such a huge thing in history that I think it's always going to bring out some drama if you bring it up in a movie.
And it definitely seems like they're adding a lot of scripture moments in here, or quotes from the Bible. And I know that while we were watching the movie, you pointed out that Bruce has a secretary named Grace, and Luthor has a secretary named Mercy. I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that until you pointed that out to me.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting, and I always love symbolism in a movie. I think it makes it a little more interesting.
So I would say my overall verdict for this movie, after watching it for like the dozenth, umpteenth time, I don't know how many times I've seen this movie, I would say I like it. I like the movie because I like the themes in the movie. I like the tone of the movie. I like the performances. I like the directing. I like the music. I love the biblical stuff, the 9/11 references, how Superman is a rookie and he's still trying to deal with everything, and he's dealing with people criticizing him, and he doesn't know how to handle that. I enjoy seeing a seasoned veteran Batman in here who's very brutal, and finally getting the best live action Batman I've ever seen before in that warehouse scene, and how it's not just an action scene. It ties into the rest of the movie about how he's brutal, he gets enlightened, and then now he wants to try and course correct his life after finding out that, yeah, you know, he and Superman have the same mother, and then that awakens something in him, and he's brought back to the light. Where at the beginning he says, "Oh, it brought me to the light. It was a beautiful lie," and now he's brought back to that by being awakened again. Yeah, and so I enjoy all of that stuff, but the negative thing is Lex Luthor in here, Jesse Eisenberg, his performance and the character is over the top. His execution of his plan just seems really illogical to me. There's so many like things that are involved with his plan that don't make any sense, and it doesn't seem like it would work. And then Lois Lane and her whole bullet discovery thing of trying to figure out who manufactured it doesn't need to be in this movie. It's very tiresome. It goes all over the place. Like, yeah, at the beginning there are pieces to the puzzle, and then by the end they all come together. But then I'm like, they could have trimmed a whole lot of fat in this movie and just did what the title of this movie is supposed to be: Batman versus Superman. Just make it simplified and be like, here's why Batman doesn't like Superman. Here's why Superman doesn't like Batman. Do that. That's it. We don't need all this extra filler in here. So I like the movie, but I feel like just these problems in here keep me from loving it, because as much as I feel a lot of the stuff in here makes sense, it feels like the whole Batman and Superman thing is like a C or D plot, where the Lois is the A plot and the Lex Luthor is the B plot, and Batman and Superman like kicked to the back burner. Because when I see the opening scene, I'm like, boom, this is how we kick it off. This is why Batman's mad. Then all of a sudden, ooh, Lois and this bullet, and I'm like, what the? I don't care about that.
I agree with you on that. I think it was a great movie because I really enjoy Batman. So anytime I see a movie with Batman, I'm probably going to enjoy it. I really liked how they portrayed him, and I like the new thing they did with him, showing his weaknesses, and kind of, I wish they would have went a little deeper with him, and just like you said, and Superman, instead of focusing on her so much and the terrorist thing. And I wish they would have kept it a little more simple, but I think it was a great movie, and I really enjoyed Batman, and I enjoyed Ben Affleck as Batman, so I liked it. I thought it was great.
All right, so then that is the review of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. Ali thinks it's great. I liked it. I chose to watch this movie, and next time when you hear us, we will be reviewing a movie that she picks. And so look forward to that coming sometime soon. And so as always, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.
Thank you.
All right. I appreciate you for doing this. Thank you very much. All right. Got anything?
No.
Okay.
No, baby.
All right. Hold on. Wait a minute. Just say something in closing, like something like just something. I don't know what.
Until next time.
Okay, that's great. Anything?
I don't have a closing.
You don't have a closing?
No,
thing?
I don't.
Like,
I've never had one.
No. Okay, that's good.